What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the data points, what really moved it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi did close in the green 1.12%, 23.52 the low, 25.45 the high, and 88.9 million shares being traded. 79.2 is the average. So a lot of people were very pleasantly surprised based on how the market did close. A lot of that had to do with kind of the data. So starting off early this morning, we did have Williams pretty much signaling that there's a possibility for a December rate cut. And I think that was perfectly timed. You did have a lot of individuals really kind of going against Williams and saying, no, there's no real justified reason, one of which was good old Jim Cramer. So I don't know if that's somehow inverse, but because of Williams' comments, this did jump from about 39 yesterday to now 69% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut. So all in all, that would be huge for the broader market, but ultimately that only helped during the pre-market. As you can kind of see, things started to really go down until data did come out. So we did have a lot of flash data. So composite manufacturing and services came in at 54.8, 51.9, 55. All for the most part either in line or better than the forecast. So generally good stuff. One thing as well that the market really liked was the services, because that came in at 55 versus a forecast of 54. And that's been more of a looming fear for a while. So that was a nice kind of FU to the bears. And then we did also get Michigan consumer sentiment. That came in at 51 versus a forecast of 50.3. And then the expected 5-year inflation came in at 3.4. Forecast of 3.6. So that was kind of what really drove the broader market higher. I know a lot of people might be wondering, because that's what I like to do. I like to analyze the data behind the scenes, but I know a lot of people might be wondering, hey Cal, was this day justified? Was it institutions buying? Very valid question, you might ask, but ultimately, it was institutions selling. So the big culprit for today was algorithmic trading. So you did see a lot of institutions pretty much selling into this rally. So these are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market. Anything with a ask is a buy. So I kind of scrolled through a little bit and you see occasionally buys here and there, but most of it was institutions selling. Some of the big ones today, 62.5, 16.6, 6.5. So unfortunately, I don't think anyone's really overly complaining, but in case you were wondering whether today's kind of rally was justified, technically not so much. But then again, I think every stock has been absolutely slaughtered over the last 5 days and 1 month. So SoFi is down 9.16% over the last 5 days and down 11.13% over the last 1 month. In all fairness, I think SoFi definitely has held up over the last 1 month better than a lot of other growth stocks, but nonetheless, though, I still do feel a lot of value investors and possibly retail did get in over the last couple of trading days, and I can see that from some of the comments. Aside from that, though, the only thing that really came out today, so there was no news associated to SoFi. SEC filings, there was one, a 144 that was submitted at 11:25, and that did signal that a run is selling about 46,000 and change today. And so this seems to be more of a common occurrence, unfortunately, just more and more insiders are selling. This is why I kind of mentioned, I think 2 or 3 videos ago, it might be a big ask, but if Anthony was to buy, I feel like that would be a huge sentiment booster. But still, again, asking someone who just pretty much got like a ton of shares to buy more, like it might be crazy to ask. But nonetheless, though, this is pretty much the only thing that really came out specific to SoFi. Aside from that, though, when it comes down to shorts, they did increase 1.43 million shares. 9.52% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 112.73 million shares overall are being shorted. So this was a very common scenario across a lot of stocks I kind of looked at today. So you had shorts increasing as well as institutions selling. So I don't know, again, how that's going to really play out going into next week, because as I kind of mentioned in my video yesterday, technically what really started all of this crazy sell-off was algorithmic trading, and that algorithmic trading constantly just hitting the market eventually turned to real fear. So today's green day, yes, it might have been artificial, but if it does continue, then you could see true optimism start to come back. So it's kind of one of those things that you need to, a lot of different things could play out. Stay tuned for my video over the weekend where I go over some expectations for this upcoming week. But nonetheless, looking at the options today, we had 60 million in calls, 42 million in puts, 46% of all the options being done were bearish in nature. And ultimately with it closing at 25.19, that does mean that the 25 and below strike prices are considered in the money. So if we kind of pop over here, we have 5,000 at the 25, 5,000 at the 24, and then 3,000 at the 23. So nothing significant if you ask me. So you're not going to see any gamma squeeze, any push higher or whatever else. So it is what it is. These are some of the transactions that did occur on the dark pool. So given how active shorts were, it is fair to assume that majority of these large transactions were linked to them. So the biggest one was done pretty much during power hour. That was 10 million, 3.5, 1.9, 1.8, 1.6. And actually on a side note, just so you guys can see it, shorts were pretty much not really doing anything. You can see from this teal line, they were largely returning actually most of the day up until pretty much the end. So it is fair to assume that this right here, this 10 million was for sure attributed to shorts, but it goes to show a lot of manipulation is happening in the broader market. So aside from all of that fun stuff, with it closing at 25.19, it is right below this S2. So I'm looking at the 1 minute. So this was very finite. 22.83 going to be the next strong support. It wasn't tested whatsoever. Still though, 23.52 was the low. So give yourself a shout out if you did buy. Unfortunately, I was in a meeting, so I couldn't have. I wish I would have actually saw this sell off because everything was going down. That would have been a perfect time for just a quick swing trade, but give yourself a shout out if you did somehow buy that. But nonetheless, 25.20 and then 26.66, those are going to be the next kind of key pivots. After hours, SoFi is at 25.30, so it is above this S2. So just again, something to keep in mind. Aside from all of that fun stuff on the actual chart, even though today's green day was very exciting, it wasn't really enough to get above that 100-day moving average. So that's going to be again another element to kind of watch for over the next couple trading days. Still crazy of a sell-off though, so there's still clearly a lot of fear in the broader market. Looking at the market position though, you do see a little bit more willing buyers, which is a kind of a good thing. But aside from that though, you don't really see much kind of movement on the willing sellers. So it looks like whoever is willing to kind of sell at these levels, they're not budging whatsoever. So something, again, just to kind of keep in mind. But aside from all of that fun stuff, though, there really hasn't been all that much in articles talking about SoFi. Clearly, some of these articles are just tagging SoFi, even though there's absolutely no relevance to it at all. There was no new analyst ratings on a side note, so it was just merely at the mercy of the broader market. Nothing really wrong with that, so I'm not really crapping on today's green day, but again, I think we do need some very concrete data to really continue this nice run. But like I said, stay tuned for my video over the weekend. Give yourself a shout out if you did buy or did you sell? Did you lock in profits? What did you do? And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades, worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.